Commissioner Peters.
Thank you. Just to be clear, Commissioner Steele, I was the mayor of a city in 2008 through 2012, and I had to go through the same difficult decisions. And I'm not doing the naysaying, but Bill, I'm going to have a couple questions for you. So last year you projected we were going to make $31 million to go into reserves. Do you know how much we actually are going to collect?
Property tax-wise, it's pretty well what we equivalent predicted. It's a little bit more because we have to budget at 95%, but we estimate for the forecast every year, and what we're expecting to collect is consistent with the forecast.
Okay,
so there's no surprises that happened in property tax
Because Mike Twitty, when he presented here, said it ended up being about 8 to 9% higher.
That
because
was
the property
residential
values,
specifically.
Residents specifically. Okay. So because the property values went up, we didn't get a boost, it wasn't more than 31 million?
When he sets the property tax values on July 1st,
Yeah.
the only thing that changes is the value adjustment board adjustments. And that typically will be a decrease because nobody's coming in and saying, I should be paying more property taxes.
Well, that's true. And I don't blame them. However, all right, so we raised $31 million that didn't pay for a bill, it went into reserves. And if we go to the full rollback rate, that means we'll still collect that $31 million, correct?
In terms
That's
of,
correct.
So the amount of money that you're going to collect is going to be, if you go to the full rollback rate, will be the exact amount of money that you collected last year, correct?
not factoring in new construction. New construction, we are collecting more for new construction.
Okay, so we'll just stay with the $31 million. So last year, we collected $31 million that went strictly into reserves and didn't pay a bill. If we go to the rollback rate, we collect that same extra $31 million. Now, granted, we're going to spend it on cameras for the sheriff. We're going to spend it on some money. And if you've kept your budget the same, which I thought you were other than the sheriff's additional, what's the sheriff actually costing us? Because it sounds to me like even at the rollback rate, we're going to have significant reserves.
No, we put that money in reserves. We cut our cost. We did not cut law enforcement costs. So he still had salary increases for his deputies. He still had, you saw some, a couple packages. This year, we funded body cameras, which has an ongoing cost of $4.5 million a year.
Right.
Mental health unit, for his group. And then we had some cost increases that for like parks, so for putting more into parks. So we had some cost increases. We've held our expenses down, but we did put a little bit of that back. But you still have salary increases from both last year and this
Right.
year.
So
So not all the 31, some of the 31 million is captured. We've held our costs down, but not eliminated
So
those
I'm
increases.
just trying to kind of do that
Yeah,
number, right?
I
So the sheriff's package and the 3%, what is that total? Is that like 15 million?
I'd have to look to Bill to get those types of numbers off the top of my
Okay,
head.
so, and I don't know if you know that. So
We
what I'm
were able,
asking for.
I mean, to your point, we were able to live within that as a rollback rate, except for, and project out for the next several years. So a full rollback rate, the way we came up with that recommendation was, we're taking as essence the 31 million, we're capturing salary increases, healthcare increases, things like that, and some of these program packages, and be able to live with that over this 2-year period.
Right,
okay?
and you'll still have reserves that's going to be added to the reserves as a result of that, right?
Well, we
'Cause
won't
you're not
add to the
spending it
reserves,
all.
but we're using some of that for one-time money. We're putting $4 million into sidewalks, for instance, to get rid of that backlog. So either way, we were able to capture that on an ongoing basis.
Okay, all right, but what I'm looking for, and if you can help me on this later, is what was the increase, because you were keeping everything at the same, and we know it's the sheriff, we know it's the 3% salary increase, $4 million for sidewalks, so, I'm still thinking you're coming up with 20 million, which probably leaves 11 million that's still going to go in reserves, is that correct?
Well, it was money from reserves last year, and so that stays there. So we have stable reserves. We're spending down some for one-time cost, like we said. Last year we had to pay the sheriff, then we had to build in ongoing operating. So it was a setup, $4.5 million,
Right.
ongoing $4.5 million.
Okay.
So because that was unanticipated. For instance, we're looking at his helicopter as replacement. That's $6 million.
Okay.
So we've, so there's several one-time monies, but we can crosswalk that for you to kind of show you the reserves and exactly where that's
Right,
going.
and our reserves are what, at about a 6-month now or 3 month? Where are we at, 6 months?
So first of all, our general fund reserve level that's budgeted for this current fiscal year, FY21, versus what we've proposed for FY22 is decreasing from 161.8 million to 152.5 million.
Okay.
So as Barry said, we are using one-time dollars to support specific projects that is decreasing our total reserve level in the general fund as proposed. That's with the full rollback rate. In addition to that, as far as the sheriff goes, as Barry said, we've got the body cameras, which is $4.5 million with recurring impact. We have the sheriff vehicles. We're building that in as a recurring impact moving forward and paying off the full
$11
debt.
million.
On top of that, you've got the Sheriff Mental Health Squad, you've got the Marine Safety, and the helicopter repairs. And future, we know that is going to be coming the helicopter replacement. On top of that, the sheriff is also given a target, which is commensurate with inflation. So that increases his total budget as well. So the sheriff has increases in many different areas, but that's all built into still maintaining a reserve level as currently constituted at 21.7%, which is above our target,
Okay.
and at $152.5 million. That's what gives us comfort with saying we can go to the full rollback rate. That's before trying to build in $9 or more million a year for Transportation Trust on a recurring basis moving forward.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you. I just want to be clear on all that.
Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just, I heard some numbers thrown around. It was a $24 million property tax decrease versus a $14, $15 million gas tax increase. Is that countywide?
Correct.
Is that,
The 15 million would have been countywide,
Right.
correct?
and the 24 million is property tax decrease if we did the staff recommendation.
And
But-
that would have supported the cities as well.
Right.
Just to be clear, that's the reason that it was 15 million as opposed to the 9 million that we're talking about now, which is the 60% that we would have capped out of a 5-cent local option fuel tax.
Well, what we really haven't talked about is that level of service. If we did the full rollback, and we don't do the gas tax, what's that push our roads and sidewalks back, how many years, and those kind of things as far as actual physical impact. But I think the slotted fund, I just think is a dangerous, it'll be like a state housing trust fund that we rate every year when we need to, when budget needs, when we want to increase the level of service in our parks, or we have something over here we want to do that year. I just think a future county commission would raid that fund in a heartbeat. But it's an interesting conversation when we're talking about increasing personnel and certain things in parks and other departments, but still want to do no tax increase and a full rollback. It doesn't
Well-
all add up at the end of the day, I don't think.
Yeah, well, I mean, we keep forgetting that we reduced, for the Board of Commissioner departments, we reduced our expenses. And that's the key to being, it's really a shifting of priorities. What we've been trying to do, as we've said before, is to reduce our expenses to align with what you have stated are your priorities into your strategic plan. If you look at the 3-year period, the Board of Commissioner departments have went up on our expense side by 0.7% over a 3-year period. That enables us to fund mental health units. That enables us to fund the law enforcement pieces. That enables us to address the level of service in parks that you told me 3 years ago was insufficient. So that's how we're trying to accomplish that, is through tightening our belt and reducing our expenses. It's very hard to do that on the sheriff's side. I mean, it's a people business, you know, it's a jail deputy, it's a road officer. And so that is the other half of the general fund that is much more difficult to do.
And at the end of the day,